Blessings. We are here in New Zealand after the Righteousness by Faith camp with Mark Sandoval, and we are here with Debra.
Hi.
The backbrain of the whole administration. Hello, Debra.
Hi.
Tell us a bit about yourself and how this message has impacted your life.
Well, I'm Debra and I was born in Christchurch in New Zealand. Some time ago, as you can see by the wrinkles on my face. And I was brought up in a dysfunctional family, but I had two parents at home at all times. I trained to be a secondary school teacher of mathematics and outdoor education. But when I was in my 40s, I had a life-changing accident where I fell 300 metres down an ice face, a ski field. I expected to die, but I was saved as a result of a ski instructor being on the mountain. But you can't fall 300 metres, which is about the height of the Eiffel Tower, without having some consequences. And one of those was a serious brain injury. So since then I haven't been able to work, so that's just over 20 years ago. But while I was falling, I guess when you're in a life-death situation, you think, well, am I going to die? And if I don't, what next? And so you sort of, well, I remember going, well, God, if you save me, I'll spend the rest of my life serving you. And obviously I was saved and unable to work because of my serious injuries. And from that time on, at that stage I was a Pentecostal Christian, Sunday keeping, but I became more serious in looking for what the real truth was. And I found Adventism after a while, and then quite a bit later I found the Law of Life message.
Very, very deep story, touching story. And could you tell us a bit after you have encountered the message?
Okay, so previous to my accident, I lived what I thought was quite an okay life, but I always struggled with relationships, particularly with those people closest to me. But I sort of got through life, making big mistakes, but just keeping going. I knew no different. When you have a serious accident, particularly a head injury, if you have problems in life, they tend to get bigger as a result of a hit to the head. And so my relationships got even worse. As part of recovery for the accident, I was offered counselling, and so they focused on the trauma, on the fact that I couldn't work again, and also on relationships. But it was never satisfactory. Like, they gave me advice like, think before you speak. And as soon as I did something wrong, I went, oh no, I haven't thought before I've spoken, you know. I went to several counsellors, nothing really improved. And then one day I was up visiting a friend at a church, and I saw a notice on there, so this is an Adventist church, I saw a notice on the wall that was advertising a series that would, looking at, amongst other things, helping you with relationships. And I guess I got to a point that it was like, this could be the answer. Going back a step, I realised that that because I was having these problems with several people, and I'd go into a counselling session and say, I've got the problem, but I just don't know how to solve it. So I'm up at this church and I see the advertisement and I go, well, let's try this. And it was a Sabbath, and the next day was going to be the last message. in a week-long series. And so, not that I think that people should do this, but the next morning I got on the road and I hitchhiked 300 kilometres.
300.
300 kilometres to get to the meeting, and I arrived and went in, and so it was the last night of the meeting. And I have to say, I didn't understand a lot. It was a summary, but I thought, I think this might have the answer. And so I had a counselling session the next day, and then I just progressed. Initially it took a while to understand the message. Horse came to New Zealand, I think, 1 or 2 more times. And finally, probably 3 years later, we say the penny dropped. The light bulb went on, and relationships have changed ever since. Can't say they're perfect. Even on this week, there was a couple of incidents that I think I should have thought before I spoke, but it's a lot better. There are several keys, I think, I call them nutshells, that help when I'm processing. Probably the biggest one is to give, to take from God and give to others. What I was doing, like what most people do, is take to get. But it wasn't transactional, like, it was, sorry, but I wasn't giving $10 and expecting something of $10 back. But I thought if I'd helped people and did this in my time of need, people would help me, and that was quite disappointing. So that is one of the keys. Another one is to give people 100% freedom. I had expectations on people, and that created friction. Since I have tried to use the 100% freedom rule, my relationships, particularly with my family, are a lot better. I don't have expectations of them, and it's just totally different. Another nutshell is, I've just forgotten it. There's my head injury. Take to give, 100% freedom, and I guess, totally relying on God and not other people. But there's a lot to learn, but as we learn a little bit and put it into action, then it makes a difference.
How have you gotten into administering so much of God's work in New Zealand?
God gives us all talents. When I was a child, I used to dream of doing event planning. And I remember when I was about 7 years old, I thought I'd like to work for Buckingham Palace, because they have big events, and I thought limitless finances, so I could organise all those sort of things. I never did, as I've said. I became a secondary school teacher, but even there I would take young people on camps and activities. So coming into the church, then you want to use your talents for God, and I guess He just draws you into, you see opportunities and you want to use the gifts that He's given you in that sort of area.
What kind of advice would you give to somebody that would like to administrate for God, that would like being the backbone of a camp, to organize it, to make it proper?
The motivation for organising a camp, for me, when you receive a message that is life-changing, you want to share it with others. And the law of life particularly, I'm a different person as a result. And so I guess you decide how you can do that, and there's a number of ways. One of the ways is, in fact, to have a camp. And On reflecting the camp of this last week, the benefits of having a camp is you bring people away from their home environment into nature, and then they have time to rest, reflect and learn at the same time. Your question was how best to run a camp. It's key to have a team, whatever you're doing, and particularly a team when you're running a camp. So I'm one of quite a few people that were working. The key positions is the overall organiser, administrator, but then you need someone to deal with all the reservations, and you need someone to organise speakers, you need someone to organise the venue, and you need a cook, of course, and an AV team and music, those sort of things. So if you take all the different departments and find somebody that can look after those, give them guidance, but then also let them have some freedom, of course, to do that.
So it's the principle that Moses' father-in-law taught him. Don't do it all by yourself, but give responsibility also to others.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I think the more you do this is our second camp, but also we've done quite a few weekend seminars. God brings people around that you work well in a team. So you nurture your team throughout the year, and then you give them the opportunity to serve using their talents for God, and then we provide a camp for whomever wants to come.
Beautiful message. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Blessings.